Welcome to Korvet Aluminum Trawlers. Today we're going to be speaking to Peter Bost, who is the Dutch boat builder that's responsible for the Deep Water Yacht project in the first place. And we want to discuss the nature of boat building in the Netherlands, because it's quite unique from what you're seeing elsewhere. Peter, first of all, congratulations. The last few days have been the first time that we've been able to step aboard one of your boats.
Yes.
And of course, as you know, for more than a year now, we've been talking and I've been researching what it is you do. But in the end of the day, until you get on board, you know what I mean, and you see the detail and the intention of what you're trying to do here, because in theory it was all perfect, but the execution is remarkable.
First of all, thank you for the comments. You know, my team and I are very proud of what we've done, and
Right.
every boat that we've built, and we haven't built that many, to be honest.
Right.
But I look at it as artisanal building.
Right.
No two boats are the same.
I have 27 years of experience in this industry,
Yeah.
and that includes boat building directly, not just boat sales. And one of the things that's really attractive to a boat yard about fiberglass is once you have a mold, you can hire somebody on Monday and he's building boats on Wednesday. So you have a lot of low-skill, low-cost labor that really it sort of benefits the boat builder and, of course, allows you to consider scale. One of the things that I've learned in the last few years about especially aluminum boat building is that there's just no unskilled labor involved. So that is one of the challenges. And I know that the other things that challenge a boatyard is overheads and trying to keep them down. It often forces them, I've been there myself, to insert as many people as possible and maybe even product that help reduce the cost.
Yeah.
But your methodology is different. When you talk about partners, you're talking about different stages of construction, aren't you?
Yes, that's right. There are very few yards that have all the qualities in-house
Right.
that you need to build a yacht.
Right.
And if they do, they're usually big production builders.
Right.
So they build 10 boats a year, 20 boats a year. That's not what we're doing. What I've done, I've selected over time 5 main, what I call my strategic partners.
Right.
And they're all specialized in their own field.
Right.
So I work with a company in Rotterdam that handles all the boats that are used for docking the tankers and the container ships that come in.
Right.
And they build my hulls. They don't build any other pleasure boats,
Right.
but they build my hulls. And in this way I get their industrial quality,
Right.
but also the know-how. I can bring that to to a pleasure boat.
To me, this impresses me more than everything else. Because fundamentally, when you're looking at a vessel like this, the steel structure, I mean the metal structure of the boat, is the most important aspect.
Yeah.
And so that is being built with the highest level of standards. And as you said, the welders that put this boat together are Lloyd certified.
Absolutely, yeah.
Even in the aluminum boat building world, and I've spent a couple of years in it now, that is unheard of.
Yeah.
Because that is reserved for the commercials. You know, one expression I learned from a very knowledgeable boat builder many, many years ago is he once said to me, Rob, if you always want to understand the best ways to do things, Ted taught me, follow the commercials. He was a boat builder who built a lot of government boats, both mostly for the Canadian and U.S. Coast Guards. And he would say the pleasure boats I would build to meet the local standards didn't even require paperwork. He said, but when I built a boat for the U.S. Coast Guard, they would basically hand me 3 telephone books of staff. He said, I got those contracts because most boatyards wouldn't even touch them.
Yeah.
So he often said, if you really want to, investigate quality, follow the commercials.
Well, that's absolutely true. The yard where I build, they actually like building my boats. Right. Because our requirements are a little bit higher even than the professional boats that they build, the pilot boats and all these boats that maintain windmills out on the North Sea.
Right.
But when it comes, for instance, to the hull has to be completely fair and smooth.
Right.
To achieve that with aluminum is very, very difficult. When you start welding, you bring heat into the aluminum, and it tends to warp the metal a little bit.
Right.
So in order to keep that straight, you have to put stringers on the outside, on the inside, which later you take away, of course. And that's, if you look at our hull, it's completely smooth.
Right.
We don't have the luxury of putting a lot of filler on it. We don't have the luxury, so that has to be right from day one. And very few people can do that. We've got a number of good aluminum builders in Holland, but it's a handful.
Well, before we leave the metalwork, though, let's talk about the fact that there is no ballast in this boat.
Mm-hmm. The boat sits exactly in the waterline, the way it is designed.
Yeah.
And of course, when you make the first boat and the first design, you have to very carefully calculate all these matters.
Yeah.
Where do you place the heavy stuff? Your engines, of course, but they're right smack in the center, below us right now.
Right.
Your washing machines tend to be heavy.
Yeah.
Your water tank, all these things.
Well,
therefore, we don't need any ballast in this boat.
Yeah.
Ballast is weight, weight is fuel.
Well, again, the metalwork, of course, is the most important part of this boat. But obviously, nobody's going to live aboard, you know what I mean, a vessel such as this unless it's finished well. And I've commented before that when you build a boat like this, it's very inefficient because you're not, building the hull, dropping components in, and then attaching the deck. So obviously, when you move the boat out of the metal stage, you've got to find some pretty competent furniture makers.
Well, that's true. The only things we drop into the boat before we put the superstructure on are the engines.
Of course.
And the generator. So the very big hardware.
Yeah.
They go in, we then seal the engine room completely, weld the superstructure onto the boat, and then it goes to the carpenters. We attach the boat to a pilot boat, basically, and they bring it to the town of Hardingsveld.
Okay.
There it goes through a lock. We take it out of the water.
Right.
We place it in a big hole. And that's where we finish the boat. So that's where all the carpentry is done. A lot of the electrical parts are built in there. All the cabling.
Right.
Although some of the cabling we've done already in Rotterdam. The heavy cables that are deep down in the bilge. And that's basically where we finish the boat.
Right.
And once that is done, we put it back in the water there and take it out.
What you're telling us is that unlike a boat factory, where it's a line construction, and I've been involved in that a couple of times. What this instead is the stations, instead of being in one building under one company, it's moving from expertise to expertise till completion.
That's right.
So there's no low-skilled, no low-cost labor involved in building a boat like this.
That's right.
And of course, the disadvantage is it's harder and almost impossible for you to mitigate cost. But fortunately, for the buyer of the boat, they end up with the best possible product.
That's right, because I have the freedom to select the best partners in the market.
Right. So let me talk about the carpentry in this boat right away. I didn't get into the boat business 3 years ago. I've been in the boat business for 27 years. And achieving quality carpentry work is a difficult thing to do. Yeah. It is one of the reasons why it's more and more it's done remotely. I think a lot of people don't understand how much filler exists in many, many boats these days between the interior components and the actual structure. And that's because it's built remotely.
That's right.
And it's inserted later. Yeah. That becomes very apparent when you're on this boat, especially when you understand boat building and you go through under floorboards, you get behind cabinetry, that you can, again, and I love to point out when I do show this boat, that you're not looking at aesthetics. The fact that the ceiling work over here is curved and here it's flat and here it changes shape again is not an aesthetic decision. It's the carpentry shop following the actual form of the boat.
That's right. Yeah.
It's remarkable. Yeah. That's a hard thing to do.
Form follows function.
Well, but I don't know that people who haven't built a boat before realize how hard to achieve what you've done here is to achieve.
Well, a lot of this was done by the designer, of course.
Right.
I mean, he is absolutely brilliant when it comes to making optimal use of space.
Right.
On this boat, that's my belief, whether you're in the salon or in the galley or up here, you're connected very organically.
Right.
You're always in contact with each other.
Yeah.
I don't have to shout to somebody in the galley. I can speak at this voice and, we communicate. And I find many other boats that I've been on, you go downstairs and you're out of contact. And, we designed this boat basically for two people with the occasional guest or children or a dog or a crew member when you're taking a longer trip.
Well, again, we've done a tour of the boat and we've shown that one of the most interesting aspects of the 50 is the fact that you have a traditional, what I call, upper salon, giving you obviously all this great visibility and so forth beside the helm station. But this boat provides you with a completely separate living area.
Absolutely.
Which is really wonderful. Yeah. And the owner of this boat, we did a 3-hour cruise this morning. And, we spoke a lot about the boat because I've traveled pretty long distance already on the vessel. And she was telling me, of course, that is a really important part of the boat to her because obviously during the day you want to be up here. You want to be where the light is and where you can see. But come evening, she wants to read her books. Down there, they can leave the window's open up here if they want. Peter, we haven't met your team yet. As you know, we plan to be in Europe in May.
Yeah. And
we want to meet all these people. But in the meantime, I want to congratulate you again. Your name is Peter Bost. That's a good name for a person who should be so proud of this vessel. And we look forward to talking to you again in the future. Thanks, everybody, for a while. I hope you enjoyed this today, and we look forward to talking to everybody again very soon.